Hi, everybody. Betsy Davis here with another episode of Colorbar, here with Kim Updike.
Hey, Betsy, how are you?
Amazing.
Everybody's back from their travels?
Barely.
Barely.
We're teasing that today is a roll with the punches kind of moment. I am sans luggage and all things that are associated with that. So I'm somewhat try to pull my life together for.
You look well put together, though. I feel like you're achieving it.
I
So
appreciate
you're
I think
rolling with it
everybody
well.
can understand what this feels like. So it is what it is. We're just gonna again roll with it.
Well, the show must go on.
Show must go on.
Must go.
Colorbar must go on.
Colorbar must go on. Despite what happens to us, Colorbar must go on.
That's exactly right.
So anyway, well, it's good to see you. I'm super excited about today. As you know, while you were at D-Scoop, I was at Meg in Chicago, and I'm really excited to talk dining. I'm especially excited to talk dining with our guest today, Carolyn Walker from Response. She is the CEO and marketing guru and expert, and especially in the dining industry. So we're very excited to have you, Carolyn. Want to take a few minutes and just tell us a little bit about yourself and Response?
Absolutely. So, hi, I'm Carolyn. Response is an agency that I did not start. I actually I started there as a freelancer, believe it or not, and then became partner and the managing partner, and then bought the original guys out in 2009. And we are an agency that specializes in three things: brand strategy, brand experience, which I think we're going to be talking about today, and then what I call brand movement, which is what you were talking about as well in terms of, traffic into stores, and how do we move the brand forward, not just from a traffic perspective, but from an actual, brand equity perspective as well. So those are three things that we specialize in, and one of our core industries that we focus on, largely due to my prior experience as a restaurant marketer with both Darden and Sandella's, is restaurants. So it is a big focus of ours. We have several restaurant clients and had many clients in the history of our agency over the last 20 years. So that's a little bit about me and who we are.
Well, speaking of brand movement, obviously, we've on this podcast been talking about what we've been seeing through all the different industries and segments that we deal with, everybody from dining to retail to automotive.
Yeah.
And obviously, brand movement and brand experience is like top of mind. And even when we were at Meg, which Betsy always cracks up when I say this, but I mean, putting butts in seats was like a huge topic of conversation. So how do we drive that in-person, that in-restaurant dining experience, and what strategies or what you're seeing in the marketplace? Because there seems to be it seems like a much more renewed focus. I know that coming out of COVID, there was getting people back into the restaurants, but there really seems to have a new movement as far as younger generations wanting in-person experiences and what that looks like. But butts and seats was a big topic of conversation. I mean, what are you all?
Yeah, I'm not surprised there, by the way, because I think it's become a bit of a post-pandemic trend and desire for people to want, like, they just want connection, like you're saying. And I also think that, the whole delivery market has become so saturated that it's like, the alternative to that is to go in store. So I'm not surprised that you're saying that. I'm not surprised that it was a big topic for you.
Well, and I think that it is. I think there was so much being, so like you said, post-COVID, like looking for an experience, a connect, not necessarily virtually, but in person. And I think they were talking about like millennials and Gen Z who've pretty much grown up in a digital environment. Plus, I did actually learn that as a Gen Xer, dating myself, but as a Gen Xer, that I am part of the last analog generation. So I'm not sure how that's supposed to make me feel. But yes, I heard that we were the last analog generation. So even younger generations really wanting to be able to go out and connect. And I totally agree on the delivery service. I mean, it was a necessity, and it's definitely a way for them to maintain their business. But from a strategy and an ROI perspective, Carolyn, most of these models were built around people coming into restaurants and having a dining experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, to me, there's two sides of that butts and seats coin in terms of, how do we do it? How do we get there if that's the strategy to get people into the restaurant? And for me, it's, equal parts doing incredible brand work, right? And brand is experience, in my opinion. So how does the brand show up in every single touch point from, what happens online, by the way, that we've done so much work in the digital space for restaurants, and for restaurants where their digital experience is just doesn't compare to their physical one, right? There's like a disconnect, and they need to elevate their digital experience so that they can have a better brand experience online, or when it at least is equal to what's happening in store. So I think the brand side of it is really big, and brand shows up in so many ways, especially in store, because you are physically connecting, right? It's atmosphere, it's the service that you get, it's the greeting that you get at the door. It's, we talk a lot about even those like light touch or unthought about things like the restroom. Like, what's the restroom like?
Exactly.
Us ladies, like, right? It's like when the restaurant experience is bad, you're mad. But when it's really good, people take pictures of what a restroom experience is like, in terms of, like, you think about Ford's Garage, right? And they do those, like, their brand touches are everywhere. They've got a pump handle for the door handle, and they've got, tires as the sink basins and all of that. So, brand comes through in every single it should come through in every single touch point. And, there's stories around that are to be had, and beyond just the spaces too, right? It's what stories are you telling through your purpose, right? And what you stand for and what you're about, and through PR and all of that, and the campaigns that you're running. So to me, butts and seats is equal parts about that, because brand is about building that long term, right? That long term demand generation for your brand and for the experience, whether it is dine in or takeout. And I think it's often forgotten, especially nowadays, because everything has gone so digital, and, marketers rely on digital tactics more so than some of the brand stuff. And so there has been an imbalance for a long time, where it was like, just put everything to digital. We can track it. We know we can see them go from the ad to into the restaurant, which is great, but it's only one part of it. And so I feel like it's not a brand versus demand or brand versus performance thing. It's both things working together to make sure that you have that short term, like, generating butts and seats, and long term, making sure that your brand is viable, like it's even option, down the road. So I think those things are really, really important.
Yeah, well, we also obviously, because we've talked before, but even, touch points, obviously, we're also, with Dine Tech in the menu business, and just even how those point of purchase materials, your menus, all of your marketing collateral really is an extension of the brand once we're able to get the guest into the restaurant. And so
Yes.
how that kind of performs, how it helps deliver on the brand promise, but also is able to execute as far as, you know, item preference or margin, or how we want those type of pieces to, interact with the guest, but really work, smart to deliver on, what we're trying to achieve as far as guest initiatives and marketing initiatives in that space.
Yeah, massively important, I think. And again, I think it's one of those things that maybe people don't even think enough about, right? It's like your menu touches everyone. Every guest that comes into a restaurant is going to touch your menu. And I think there's also, decisions to be made about that too, right? Do you have a physical menu, or you rely on just on digital? And is that a good experience for the guest, or is it a bad experience for the guest? But yeah, that physical touch point is crucial. And one of the things that I learned a long time ago at Darden, when I was there as a marketing manager, is that, and I think it's something that's maybe oft forgotten, but people eat with their eyes. That experience of holding a menu in your hand and looking at the items and knowing that can drive preference to something that is either, an item that is, it's high preference because people love it and it gives them a great experience, right? We know the outcome is really good. Or, when I was at Darden, we had, it was, back in the day with Red Lobster, but we had like menu insert, cards. And so we would use those if we had, say we had inventory of an item that we needed to work out, we would put a card in there so that people would see it and want it and salivate over it and buy it. And so, it is part of the whole experience, and it's a tool to be used to not just help the guest, but also help you from an operations perspective, like you're saying, Kim, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
does this help us with, operating and make it simpler? Is it making harder? All those kinds of things come into play. We're actually in 2 projects right now with 2 different restaurant clients looking at menu and how to optimize menu for all the things that you just mentioned.
Yeah. It's definitely. Yeah, and a lot of brands I think are also kind of re-looking at it because I think there's definitely some focus. George, even Felix touched on this when he spoke in Chicago about streamlining to focus on really what resonates with your guests and what really delivers your brand to the guests. So being great at lesser things that
Yeah.
are craveable to the guest is really a kind of, a direction as far as moving towards that as opposed to being okay at a whole lot of things. It's like, you know, where's our foundation and let's build upon that and what can we deliver there?
Yep. So I have a question for you. It's all of this conversation is reminding me of a recent Colorbar where we talked about content. We
Yes.
talked about now there's all of the channels, and you've even just mentioned it, Carolyn, about there's the social and digital and the
Mhm.
bathroom experience. But how are you seeing the clients that you're working with manage all those different touch points across their teams from a cross-functional perspective? So there's the digital marketing group and the email and the loyalty and the menu, and what are you seeing companies do to try to collaborate together to be really strong about that brand message?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen a lot of different things across the years of how people manage that, but I do think that, at least with the clients that we have right now, they're a bit smaller, and so things are smaller than, like, say, a Darden, right, where you have departments for everything, um, where it is highly collaborative, and they're using us as an agency as basically an extension of their marketing team, and so it's way more collaborative, it's way more integrated because you are managing all of these things and they have to be in sync with each other and all operating to the same business goal, right? And end state. And so that's what we're seeing. I think things are moving faster for sure, but I also think that they're moving in more concert with each other probably than ever before. And I think on the restaurant side, like, there has been a big movement towards, figuring out how to rein in all of the sources of data into one central area to get a better, 360 view of your guest, and then how do you use that view to push on the different levers, whether it's email or social or, digital ads or whatever it might be, website. Um, so yeah, I think, it's more probably complex than ever, but I also think it's more, collaborative than ever.
Yeah. You talked about data, and we're big about personalization
Hmm.
in our industry from a
Yeah.
perspective. Because we have so much data, what are you also seeing from a trend perspective with the dining industry trying to get more personalized with the guest experience?
Especially even as
Yeah.
it relates to brand loyalty. I'm sure you won't be surprised, but like brand loyalty seems to be a hot a resurgence. I think it's a resurgence. I could be
It is.
completely out of the loop, but a resurgence in brand loyalty and people trying to figure out how the personalization
Mhm.
aspect works in a brand loyalty, but then really understanding like, are there best practices? Are there strategies like, to make loyalty programs, successful? And then how to leverage personalization and what does that experience look like?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great, question, and just first on loyalty, I feel like loyalty and guest retention is kind of like the new acquisition, right? And I would also say that loyalty is about relationship, not just rewards. And it is a piece of this what we
Yeah, I
talked
like
about
that.
earlier. Yeah, butts and seats, right? Loyalty is about butts and seats. It's getting those customers and guests who are loyal to you to keep coming back. And so I feel like there should be some rethinking of loyalty too, by the way. Like, I think that loyalty just doesn't always live in a punch card or an app. It lives in that relationship, like what I was saying, like how often our brand shows up in meaningful and timely ways. And I think that, it makes a lot of sense in in brands and concepts that are very high frequency, right? And it's like, it makes sense that Starbucks has loyalty. It makes sense that McDonald's has loyalty. Think anything that is a coffee run or a drive through. Like, it just makes sense that you have the traditional kind of what you think of loyalty, right? In a punch card or an app.
Right.
But I think in the lower frequency dining situations, like what we're dealing with in casual dining, is more about presence and staying top of mind with storytelling and personal communication, like you're saying, right? Like addressing them individually, knowing what they did in your restaurant last, what they ordered last, how can we welcome them back again? How often have they been in?
Right.
And I also think, by the way, that it doesn't end with what they're doing in the store. It also is what they're doing online. And so we have done, I think, some of the most progressive digital personalized experiences in the restaurant industry. So, for example, we have developed sites where we know that the customer has been on the site 5 times and they just want to get to the menu. And so we change up that digital experience to get them to the menu. We know a customer might have just, this is their first time on the site. And so we give them more of an introduction to the brand when they're there for the first time. We do things like, if a concept is in multiple markets. Well, in one market, they might want to offer this promotion, right? And reward people a certain way. In another market, it might be another thing. Or we know that it's sunny and patio weather in a certain market. We might do a different message because of that. So we, I think, have done some really amazing progressive things in the restaurant industry when it comes to personalizing their digital experience. And then obviously doing everything that we can to personalize it at the restaurant. And I personally think that there's so much more that can be done to deliver a personalized experience in the store, and it's connected to what we know about them. So, like, could you imagine going into a restaurant and them greeting you and saying, "Kim, welcome back. Thanks for taking some time to give us some feedback on this new drink. Can I get you one now?" That kind of thing. Like, that would be amazing. Like, that's an incredible experience, and one that's unforgettable and drives that brand relationship and that loyalty and that reason for you to come back again and again.
Well, I can think about it, like, I'm sitting here thinking about the places that me and my friends go to, and, it's those moments where you wanted to get together for dinner and you always go back to the same place, but we go back to the same place for exactly what you just said. They know us, they know what I want to drink, they are want your
Exactly.
regular, do you
Experience.
I mean, we walk in with hugs and glad to have you back. And so those are the places that you lean to most often. And so I think if brands that we don't frequent as often can figure out that way to have that little touch would get us to come back more.
Yeah, I mean, they're treating you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're treating you, Kim, like they're the host of a dinner party and you're coming, right? Versus, just another patron, here for a drink or
How do
something.
you scale that, I guess, when you're running hundreds of locations versus, a family owned local restaurant.
It's a great question. And I personally think it all goes back to brand, right? It's like you need to know who you are, why you exist, and you need to be able to evangelize that to every single person that works for you. And so there's an internal marketing component, again, that I think is often forgotten, often under leveraged. That is a huge part of giving guests the experience that we want, right? As the marketer, as the owner, or the conceptor of the brand wants.
Well, they're kind of
Um,
like the internal marketing. You're
that's right.
the brand ambassador for the brand. I mean, you're there on behalf of the brand, delivering an experience to you, Betsy, me, Kim, Carolyn, when you
Yeah,
walk in. And so I think just the execution and training operationally on the internal marketing side is a huge piece, uh,
100%.
of the experience
Mhm.
and what that looks like because they do know you. They know what you like they remember you. And I think to your point earlier, Carolyn, it's like think, casual dining and other dining segments is really about connecting in the experience. We've got other dining markets and segments, which is much more about convenience. It's
Mhm.
more of a lot of time, like I'm in, I'm out, maybe it is the punch card loyalty or something, but rewarding people outside of just a points thing, I think was a really interesting way to look at, casual dining and, what that looks like and having people come back and really be part of your brand, which is really what you want them to do. You want them to be an extension when they go out.
Yeah, I think about talked about drive-throughs, and that's a very different experience, but I think about the experiences that I have going through a Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
as an example, and regardless of which one, so to your point about training from an operational perspective and everybody understands what the brand message is,
That's right.
feel the same energy regardless of what state I'm in, what city I'm in across the country from every Chick-fil-A. They've done in my mind, done a fantastic
Oh, yeah.
of being the evangelist of their brand, and making people feel like you're a part of that family whenever you just simply go through the drive-through.
Yeah, it's amazing what they've done, right? I mean, it's very different than any other fast food brand out there. Like, they
Like,
took it and ran with it, and now it's part of their brand and what they're known for. And it's an element that does drive people back. It's way less forgettable than other experiences, say, in other fast food brands. So, 1,000%, I think that it doesn't matter what category you're in, from fast food to fine dining, like, you can own parts of that you should own parts of that brand experience, right?
yeah,
In whatever way you can, it makes you different.
yeah. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. I was listening to some of your historic podcasts that you've done and came across one this morning from 2023, and you were already talking AI, and I feel like we talk about it all the time on Colorbar, but to I'm just really curious from your perspective, 2 years later, when you can't have one conversation about marketing without this AI coming up, or really any business conversation without it coming up, how have you seen it progress? How have you seen how people are using it differently from even 2
Mhm.
years ago to where we are today?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, I feel like it's affected the agency world in a really major way. And I think that we were really early adopters of it, and adopters in like testing and trying and figuring out and experimenting very early on. And it was funny because I got invited to uh, an offsite at Google, and it was with an agency association, and they were talking. This was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and they were talking about AI and asking questions about how many agencies were using it and experimenting it, and there were agencies in this room that were way bigger than me and us. And I was like one of like three agencies that raised my hand, 3 or 4 years ago. And I was like, wow, like I was kind of shocked. And even to this day, I was just at a meeting, with, like, 10 other agencies my size, a few months ago, and we were talking about AI, and they were all and I was telling them what we're doing, and they're all like, "What? Like, how well, you're doing what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, we're using it in so many ways," and it's a lot of use in our like, the operations side of the business, right? And, like, trying to streamline things like pricing and agreements and all this kind of stuff. It's like it's amazing for that, right? We are on paid versions. We upload all of our information. We teach the custom GPTs to learn, like how we do things and how we price things. And so, to get to an agreement or a scope of work, like we could just go, it goes so much faster, right? So it's like using it for that kind of thing. So on the operation side, to using it for brainstorming ideas and like having ideas come to life in AI in a much like it's rapid, it's so much faster, right? To get an idea out there. To even using AI to, put we could create like voiceovers in AI and add it to a rough cut of a video and things like that. So we've really embraced it a lot. We have a bunch of like guardrails and like I'm trying to think of like a document that tells people how we can use it within the agency, right? Because there's so much unknown and it's a bit of the Wild West and you don't want to get yourself into legal trouble and all of that, right? So we've documented a lot of it and we've shared a lot of that with our clients. Um, and so, we're in some instances teaching our clients how to use AI in their spaces. And, it's really been a powerful tool. It's not replaced anything yet, but it is a powerful tool. And I think the most people who get the most out of it, and I think how we get the most out of it is when we are very smart and intentional in how we're using it. And there's always that human interface and engagement with it. It's not just, copy paste into a document or something. That's not the way it's working. That's not the way it's most effective. But I think there's like in the restaurant industry in general, I think there's so much to be explored and had in the world of AI. Like I see a world where we were talking about data a little while ago, like all that data coming together and then training your AI on how to look at all of that data to get to, insights really, really quickly is where I think it's going. And using AI to, you know, um, do some of that personalization work too, right? Knowing who's on the phone, like me taking an order or using AI when you're the host or hostess and it's, someone's coming in and you are able to recognize someone and like I said, share something about their last experience or something like that. So I think it's taking I'm not no surprise. It's taking off and I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's just going to get more and more embraced as we go on.
Yep. Yeah, when I was at a women leading travel and hospitality conference last week and lots of conversation, but a lot of it around the operational aspects of
Yep.
running a hotel, running an airline, all
Yes.
cruise ship and how, operationally it's just making so much sense.
Yeah.
Just streamline your
1000%.
point about the data, quickly getting to an actionable place with it. Uh,
Exactly.
just crunching, 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 crunching,
That
Yeah.
makes it difficult, right? When
Well,
you're
then we start to at least I personally
yeah.
start to overthink it, then I wanna analyze it 5 different ways, and then next thing you know, I look up and I've gone down this rabbit hole of a data segment for 6 hours.
Right.
Worst use of my time ever. Um, but, I think it's fascinating, and we tease a lot here that, it's like the internet whenever everybody was like, "What is this? And is this ever gonna be anything?" And now it's just going to be it's gonna be a game
It's
changer
part of our lives. Yeah, it's a
for our
game changer.
lives.
It's part of our lives. Yeah.
So we have a few minutes, but I wanna just tee up. Carolyn is gonna join us on the upcoming Glimpse
Yes.
event later this summer at the end of July, and we're gonna be talking about immersive environments and, extending the brand into in-store, but in a very very creative, way that makes consumers want to come in and engage with the brand in a different way. So before we wrap,
Yes.
any tidbits or thoughts, that we might be talking about or that you might wanna share with us heading into Glimpse about what you're seeing, whether it's in the dining industry or others, where people are trying to now really create these
Unique. I'd say
memorable
memorable, unique.
memorable, experiences in store.
Yeah, I love that question. And yes, I mean, I think the one big difference between in-store and online is obviously there you cannot match the experience in store versus online. And we have clients even outside of the restaurant industry like Logitech, and I talk to them all the time about this. Like, how do we change up what's happening in store to give people a reason, right, to go in store and not just buy online? But yeah, I think it is all about that. And I'll say one thing, one of the best examples I can share with you of an incredible in-store experience is Uncle Julio's was a client of ours. Actually, they just came back to us just full circle. But they created this dessert called the chocolate piñata. And if you've ever been in an Uncle Julio's or in one of their core markets, you probably had seen the advertising around it back in the day. Anyways, they created this thing called the chocolate piñata, and their brand is all about made from scratch Mexican experiences, right? And so they created this chocolate piñata, and it's this handmade ball of dark chocolate stuffed with fresh fruit and churros. And it comes out on this platter. It's suspended on a smallware, and the guest gets a mallet, and they literally smash this chocolate piñata open, and all the fruit and churros go all over the place. And there's dipping sauces, and it's the most experiential thing you've ever seen in your entire life. It's amazing. And to me, like it was so perfect in so many ways. Like one, it aligned with the brand, right? Made from scratch was completely made from scratch. It was a complete experience. It was delivered tableside. When people saw this thing come through the dining room, they started to take out their phones, taking pictures, taking videos, and like the thing, like, they came up with the idea. We said, this thing couldn't be on radio or just in print. Like, people had to see it, in video. And so we created a commercial that ran. This was a long time ago. It was like 20, I don't know, 17 or something, 15. And we created a commercial. They didn't think they could even produce a commercial. And we said, we can do it. We know we can get it. We only cared about eyeballs getting on it. So we did a tonnage play, and we put this thing and we lit the fire under this thing. It was like, pop, and it just went insane. And it went insane because it was such an experience. And not only did like people put it on their own social, but it got picked up by Pretty 52 and Insider Dessert. We got 52 million incremental impressions just from those pickups. And it was just the most brilliant thing. And on top of it being like so on brand, it was so disruptive. Like, what other restaurant concept was advertising a dessert? Never mind a Mexican restaurant, it was just so disruptive. And that launch was the most successful product launch they'd done in the history of the company. And I take a lot of pride in that. And again, it wasn't us coming up with the idea. It was us like layering on some great marketing on a brilliant experiential idea that it just did incredible things for that brand. So it's things like that. Like, that's a major experience with a food product in your restaurant. It doesn't have to be just that, though. It's a lot of things. It's like I said, it's bathrooms. It's the little touches. It's the host greeting you. It's the bartender knowing your order. It's all of those things.
That example, which is fantastic,
Yeah.
is exactly that. It is an experience, and you can only get it coming
There.
coming
In
there.
person, yes.
And
Exactly.
I love that. And
He
now
can't deliver that.
I'm sure them coming back, it's like, okay, now how do we recreate that moment from 2015, 2017, and where we are today? And so that'll be really fun to watch what fresh idea comes out of kind of reinventing that
Yeah.
concept. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts, Kim or Carolyn, before we wrap?
I just assumed after this we were going to go try and find a mallet.
I need
Uncle Julio's.
after today. I thought I was like, I need a mallet, and some chocolate would be amazing to add to that, and a margarita.
Yeah.
So yeah. Perfect way to wrap up.
We
this
have a
segment.
target audience
We
here.
have a target
We
audience.
have a
that
target
needs a
audience
mallet.
right here.
I need a mallet.
There's a
in my hand.
location on iDrive. Go check them out.
There you
I
go.
love it. I love it. Well, we can't wait to have you on Glimpse later
Yes.
this summer in July. Thank you for sharing all of your insights. And Kim?
Very much appreciate it. No, super excited to talk all things Glimpse and have that event and kind of even just continue this immersive brand experience conversation as it relates to, other market segments and what we're seeing. And can't thank you enough, Carolyn, for your time today and talking all things dining and what we're seeing. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was so fun. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon, Carolyn.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.